Sun City scammers? What can you do about them? And how Uncle Sam is using the son of a Segundo Barrio silver screen legend to help El Paso businesses. All coming up right now. This is El Paso Town Square. Welcome, everybody, to El Paso Town Square. Duke Keith in for Wayne Thornton for the foreseeable future as we tool the show to deal with the current crisis and some of the things that are going on in the city, especially because there are so many people who are ready to take advantage of businesses and people out there. Is the Better Business Bureau, which is still firing away. And Marybeth Stevens, the head of the Better Business Bureau, is here with us. Marybeth, thank you very much for taking time today to be a part of the show and kind of let folks know what the Better Business Bureau is about, what you're doing in the current crisis, and just kind of helping businesses as well as individual people in El Paso.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, let me talk about, first of all, the businesses out there. And obviously, it is a real crunch for everybody. The Better Business Bureau has been helping businesses and individuals for years and years, and it's still full speed ahead for you guys, isn't it?
It is. We're still providing all our services. Of course, like everyone else, we are sheltering in place. Everyone's working from home, but we have a great team that can help you with whatever we pass.
That's outstanding. And if we want to talk about the business resource page, kind of get folks up to date, especially if you run a business, if you have a small business, what are you helping businesses in El Paso do?
Sure. So the first thing I want to point out is that the Better Business Bureau, we are supported by our accredited businesses, and those are businesses that commit to upholding higher standards for themselves with respect to their business practices in terms of ethical behavior and honesty and advertising, things like that. And so because of those businesses and their support, we're able to provide services to all businesses and all consumers in the community. So everything that we have is available to everybody. So one of the things that we did very quickly, like many others, is put up a business resource page. It's on bbb.org. If you go to El Paso, it is right there at the bottom, and you can link on that. And we have resources that we feel strongly that we shouldn't duplicate what other people are doing. So if somebody's got a great resource, like the Small Business Administration, we link directly to that. We link directly to their forms so that you can get your loans as quickly as possible. Federal information, state information, et cetera, city, county. So we try to put the most current, without overwhelming businesses and consumers with too much information, but put what's the most important things right there. So it's a great resource to go directly to. We've got links there to, for instance, the Paso del Norte Health Foundation has a great site that has more in-depth information about health and concerns about testing and things like that. So we link right to that, too. You can find great information, and it's the bbb.org, El Paso, and then the business resource page.
That is outstanding. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say also on there is information about the latest scams and things like that so that you can know what to be looking out for.
And that's in addition to the regular services that you are still offering as much as you can as everybody shelters in place. I know that there are different ways to get it done, but you're still doing this as well.
Oh, definitely. So we have, luckily we've got resources around the country that are constantly identifying different scams and information. We're working directly with the Federal Trade Commission. We, as always do, we work with our local law enforcement partners. So as things bubble up, we can get the information out there quickly. And I have to say that's one thing that we've worked on a lot this year. And so El Paso, we try to get information out before there's a problem and let people know to be wary of things. And so hopefully that's working. We see less people right now, for instance, price gouging and other things like that. Our community is not experienced as much as that as it is in other communities.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad El Paso's taking care of El Paso a little bit. But you talked about bubbling up. I imagine that there are a whole slew of scams that are new to people, and I'm wondering if you could kind of let us in on what you guys are seeing, specifically as it relates to what's going on here in the Sun City.
Sure. Well, one of the ones that we've definitely seen is people are getting emails, texts, phone calls, robocalls about the government assistance checks that are be going out to most eligible, to all eligible taxpayers, and that's the $1,200 stimulus funds that are going directly to people.
Yes.
So you do not have to do anything. That check will come to you, whether if you had it already set up with your taxes from last year for a direct deposit, and they have your banking information, it'll be immediately deposited directly there. And if they don't, they will send it to you. And they're also going to be setting up a portal that if you want to get your things direct deposited, you'll be able to do that. But regardless, you do not have to do anything for this. So if you get a text saying, if you give us $100, we'll get you your check faster, it's a scam. It's not true. If you anything that's talking about your check, whether it be a fee or says something like you have to fill out the census in order to get your check, it's not true. We, of course, encourage everyone to fill out the census, but that's a completely separate issue. There's nothing you need to do. So that's one of the most prevalent things going on. And then there's a lot of misinformation being sent around about testing. People have gotten emails saying you can do an online test, which you cannot, to see if you'd have the symptoms or make you more likely to be tested at a hospital or something for coronavirus. Those are not valid. They're not accurate, and they're complete scams. And so people are charging for those kind of things. And then there's the whole proliferation of different products and cures that people are trying to promote out there for coronavirus. There are not any currently. I mean, hopefully soon there's going to be some antibodies and things like that, but there's not anything out there right now. So if anyone tries to sell you anything like that, it's a scam.
That is incredible.
There's some others, but I encourage you to just look up bbb.org and look at scams, and you can see all of them.
I would imagine that especially in this day and age, the cell phone scams, the email scams that come from who knows where, are probably the worst thing you have to deal with. You know, locally oriented scams, I mean, that's one thing that's probably easy enough to find, especially if you were in concert with law enforcement. But this stuff that comes over your cell phone, that's entirely different.
Oh, it's entirely different, and this is not just unique to they're using this virus and the slow and shut down to take advantage of people's vulnerability, but it's the same issues that we see always, is that if you get an email offering you something for free or you don't know who it's from, just don't open it. We have to really change our habits. The government will not text you about anything. Right. They will not ask you for your Social Security number. They will never ask for your financial banking information or other credit card information. They won't do it. So if you have to get in the habit, or everyone needs to get in the habit of not opening these things. And if you are still hesitant about something, all you need to do rather than open it or respond directly or answering that phone is not do any of those things, but then you can proactively on your own. You can call the IRS. You can call the U.S. Treasury. You can call the charity that might be soliciting funds. You can do all of those kind of things. But if you initiate the contact, you're much less likely to be scammed. Right.
And again, bbb.org to go find out more about these specific things. And you can find out, obviously, there are some businesses that are advertising advanced checks, things like that. But you can find out about those specific businesses at bbb.org. And you link to Better Business Bureaus all across the country, if not the world.
Exactly. And so if you see a product or something that from a business that you're very interested in, check out bbb.org. And if you can't find the information, it's also very important to let us know that so that we can go and find out what you need to know. I mean, we have incredible amounts of information, but we're populating it every single day. And so people help us with that as well, especially in such a dynamic and evolving environment that we have right now.
Yeah, dynamic and evolving. Okay. That's a really good way to put it. Dynamic and evolving. It's interesting to me, behind the scenes, obviously there is plenty for you guys to do. We need resources. I think people need that connectivity more than ever because we are all in our own ways sheltering in place or just barely going to work or doing this or that. You need to be able to rely on folks outside of your home and outside of yourself. And you need those stalwart organizations like the Better Business Bureau to kind of direct that traffic a little bit. And it's a wonderful service that you guys are providing, especially right now.
Well, thank you. And we're still continuing to provide our services. So many people know us regarding our dispute resolution. So, and so we are still working with businesses. And I have to say, I'm incredibly impressed with the El Paso business community because, we've got very stringent rules about how long you have to respond to an inquiry and things like that, or a dispute. And obviously we've had to adapt those requirements to the new environment. But I have to say it's really impressive that businesses are still trying to be as responsive as they can and serve their consumers as best they can. I mean, what we tell them, too, is the most important thing is just to be very honest and straightforward. And clearly businesses are not going to be able to be as responsive as they were able to be 2 months ago for a variety of things. But as long as they clearly communicate that and are honest and straightforward, hopefully they'll keep their customers for even longer.
Speaking with Marybeth Stevens, the head of the Better Business Bureau, and we certainly appreciate your time with us today. And I think important messages for people in this day and time through the COVID-19 crisis as everybody does their best to stay away from everybody else, frankly. And, honestly, it's wonderful that the businesses in El Paso still utilize you guys as a great resource, and you're doing a good job directing that traffic. Thank you very, very much for your time today.
Thank you, and thanks for all you're doing.
Once again, Marybeth Stevens, the president of the Better Business Bureau, Paso del Norte, and our appreciation to her for her time and for her and the Better Business Bureau's work here in El Paso. Call at 915-577-0191 or just go to bbb.org, and they are still doing their thing. And speaking of the Small Business Administration, with whom the Better Business Bureau partners, our next interview is going to be with Dante Acosta, the District Director of the U.S. Small Business Administration, as we talk about some harrowing times for many businesses around El Paso, here on El Paso Townsquare. Back after this. Welcome back, everybody. This is El Paso Townsquare. Duke Keith filling in for Wayne Thornton as we kind of direct traffic a little bit to tell you what resources you might have out there, ways to connect, and stories from around the city as El Paso deals with the coronavirus and COVID-19. And we are pleased to have Dante Acosta, who is the director of the Small Business Administration here in El Paso. And Mr. Acosta, I know you've been here less than a year, and you are really tasked with doing something rather immense as far as not only the United States, but right here in El Paso to help businesses in the Sun City. Thank you for your time.
Oh, my pleasure, and I'm glad to be here to help.
And let's get the website out there. If you are a small business and you need to know the resources at your disposal, courtesy of your federal government, that's SBA.gov. You want to go specifically SBA.gov/coronavirus. There's also a federal assistance webpage, USA.gov/coronavirus as well. But you and I were talking before we really started up here, and this is a rather large deal, isn't it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it is, and my understanding is that we're now at the center of the launch of the largest domestic economic recovery program in the history of the country. And so we're no longer the best kept secret in the federal government here at the Small Business Administration. So we're proud to be able to help out.
Let's talk numbers specifically and how that boils down to El Paso. What is the total that the federal government is kind of tasking you and the Small Business Administration with rolling out to the United States?
Sure. Specifically in one of the programs, and they're all on the website, sba.gov, as you mentioned. There's a yellow banner at the very top. I think the highlight would be probably the Paycheck Protection Program, Triple P as we call it. Government loves acronyms.
Yes.
And that program is about $450 billion with a B. That is going to be available to small business owners through their local lenders, and I would highlight that you speak to a banking institution, and I'd say the majority of the banking institutions here in the El Paso borderland region are participating. Some got a little later start than others, but it seems to be moving pretty smoothly now.
That is outstanding. So it is through the bank that these things are happening, but obviously it has the backing of the United States government. And this, you were telling me, is the largest rollout of any, I guess, helping program in the history of the United States, if not the world. And you are basically rolling it out in a week.
Yeah, in 5 days, basically, from signature to, hey, here it is. So, it's not without, some trials and tribulations. Everything seems to be moving pretty smoothly now. There's another program, in addition to our Paycheck Protection Program, which, by the way, is designed to help small businesses maintain payroll for their employees, keep their staff on staff, keep them paid for an 8-week period of time. There are some provisions in there, and I encourage people to talk to their banker and go to SBA.gov. There are some provisions in there where it may be forgiven. The loan may be forgiven. There's a kind of a companion piece, if you will, that has a little broader usage ability, and that is our EIDL loan program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, IDL. Again, there's the acronyms. That is available directly on the SBA's website. That is a pretty robust program as well. There are some upfront provisions and things that we're trying to get money out to folks as quickly as possible. But you understand the take rate on this has been extremely high. And anytime you get folks, going on a website and putting in information, that you're bound to have people have questions. So we really encourage them to go to that SBA.gov website, contact their local SBA office for some guidance. But pretty much everything is on the SBA's website, and that program will allow them to use the money for things like payroll, again, not to be in conflict with the Paycheck Protection Program, but also they can use it for things like rent, utilities, accounts payable, so kind of any general business expense that they may have in the shorter term. That's a longer-term loan program. Rates fixed by statute at 3.75%, 2.75 for nonprofits. So,
in relation to that, are there limits for businesses? Is there a limit for any individual business, or is this kind of a need-based? Are these need-based programs?
Sure. Well, it's all needs-based, and I'm glad you asked the question. The Paycheck Protection Program has a $10 million limitation. There's a formula that's worked out through their bank, and then the paperwork. The application. Basically, there was one. I'm not sure. I can find it at the moment, but there is one that had a template online, but now you go directly to your bank. The other thing to keep in mind, the EIDL loan has a $2 million cap, but it's based on your application and your ability to repay. Actually, both of these are.
Okay.
So when you go through the EIDL loan online program directly with the SBA, that program will be looked at based on the credit worthiness, credit history, and the ability for the business to repay that particular loan, because that has up to a 30-year term on it.
Wow.
And that will be determined by the SBA.
Outstanding. And these are resources available to small businesses all across the United States, but specifically you're here in El Paso. Is there a phone number that people should call? Obviously, the website is there, and we've talked about that. Again, that's sba.gov, or specifically sba.gov/coronavirus. But should they need to make a phone call, how do they reach you guys?
They can certainly, call our office if they have a question, and that would be 915-834-4600. We can probably do best by just kind of walking them through the application if need be. It is pretty straightforward, but we do run into folks that have a question or two here and there, and we're happy to help with that.
Well, and this is the amazing thing. People talk about the government in this way or in that way, but you are basically in many ways trying to fit that square peg into the round hole, and this is the process of doing that. This is what you do to help facilitate things. It's never going to be a clean fit, but I mean, if you throw $450 billion at something, people are going to have questions. They're going to have issues.
Sure.
That's what you're here for.
That's why we exist, and we exist to help the small business owner. Normally we're doing webinars and training here at our office about how to start a small business and get funding and those kinds of things. We work with our veteran community very robustly. We unfortunately had to cancel a very large veteran event that we were doing in conjunction with the New Mexico district up in Las Cruces. We had to cancel that, and that was unfortunate at the last minute. But that's generally what we do on a day-to-day basis. I think the number last year was about $56 billion that we loaned to small businesses, and the entire year. And now contrast that with,
$450 billion.
$450 billion. Do the math. It's a lot more zeros. And by the way, in 5 days we rolling it out. The number that I have nationwide is we've helped about 400,000 businesses. Their loans have been approved. And about $100 billion is approved in funding that should go out the door, pretty quickly, and that's just the Paycheck Protection Program, is my understanding. So,
wow,
I might be off on that, but anyway, we're doing our level best to help small businesses and get the money out the door as quickly as possible. Understand there are limitations to any system and to any organization, but I can tell you this: I know firsthand how hard my staff has been working locally just to answer questions. And then if you contrast that with what's happening at headquarters and the people that I know that are working there that are sending me texts, and no exaggeration, thankfully they're not texts, but emails at 3 o'clock in the morning, DC time. And they're going home to take showers and coming back. So the people are working very hard. They're trying to make everything work and function smoothly. And I can see that we're getting money out the door. We're helping small businesses with this historic program that SBA is responding to the needs that are out there.
And let me ask you specifically here in El Paso, how much do you think you've been able to help already?
We just unfortunately don't have the data broken down like that yet. I can tell you from just the calls, the daily calls I make with our bankers, they're all kind of got some ideas on some numbers. We don't have an aggregate number yet. I think that will be distilled down at some point.
Sure.
But I will tell you this: money is going out the door and being approved here in El Paso through all the various lenders that are available. By the way, those lenders are available on the website.
Yes.
It's under. You'll see it. It's pretty quick to get to it, but it's under funding programs and then the Paycheck Protection Program. There's a Find a Lender button, and I encourage people to try that, look for a lender, and try different zip codes here in El Paso because it's very branch specific.
Okay.
So I encourage people to go on the website and look for that as well. We can assist on that as well if they call us up.
That's very helpful. I think getting people into their specific neighborhoods, especially as many people shelter in place.
Yeah.
That's even more important. So, wow, that's pretty macro, actually. That's wonderful. Have you gotten any, not that people are going to send you thank you notes, but have you gotten any, I guess, a payoff in terms of people being grateful for what's going on with the United States and helping?
It's funny, you often hear the negative, but I will tell you, one of the most intriguing things that has happened since my wife and I moved to El Paso is the people. And how gracious and warm the people here are in El Paso. Don't get me wrong, the food's pretty darn good, and I'm from Southern California where we got everything. But along those lines, people have been very thankful. They're very thankful when they just make that call and get the information. Sure, we've had people that have had some frustrations, But the majority of people that I'm speaking to and my staff are speaking to have been very gracious. Thank you for the information. Thanks for answering my questions. Had a few people call back. I mostly speak to kind of macro, speak to the banks and how things are going on their level to get the money out the door. And the banks have been pretty complimentary this week in terms of how smoothly things are going. It's just a matter of getting that, pig through the snake kind of thing, or getting as many people possible through there. There's a big S-curve of applications being entered into the system and then working their way down through the system. If you picture that, large lump going through the snake, it's kind of what's happening. So we're very grateful for when people call up and thank us, but it's not necessary. Just get out there, keep people employed, do what you do in El Paso. I've had some anecdotes that there's some folks that are considering, if they get the Paycheck Protection Program, when they get it, keeping their bakery open, even though they don't have as many customers as they did, and hopefully some of them are going to follow this advice and go out and make bread, while their staff's standing there, make bread and donate it if they can't sell it. And I think that's kind of an amazing thing to do. I don't have any specifics on people doing that yet, but I've heard that's something that people are considering, and certainly wouldn't surprise me here in the El Paso region.
It's got to be out of the frying pan into the fire for you again. Less than a year here in El Paso, and just merely pouring the largest public assistance program in the history of the world out to folks here in the Sun City specifically. Is there, anything for you personally that has surprised you about El Paso?
Again, having obviously some roots here, but not having spent a whole lot of time here, in the recent past. I'm really impressed by what's happened in the community and what's happening downtown, and how frankly, I already mentioned how warm the people are. But I was pleasantly surprised, coming from Southern California, kind of seeing some of the issues that are happening there, that people take a lot of pride in their community here, and it's been we've received a real warm welcome, and it's been very nice to be able to kind of walk through a community. Not so much now, we're all encouraged to stay indoors.
Right.
But
sure.
To go through a community that has some great amenities. My wife and I've already been to a show at UTEP, and I've been to the Plaza and some of those things. I've sampled many of the restaurants here in town, and I'm really just encouraged and really, frankly, very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and you mentioned your roots. This is very interesting, folks. Your dad is Rodolfo Acosta, Rudy Acosta. If you are a fan of silver screen cinema, one of the more well-known character actors who happened to be born in Segundo Barrio right here in El Paso. This is tremendous. So kind of a full circle thing for you coming back to the Sun City.
Yeah, it really is. And
for your family.
Life always has unexpected twists and turns, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And talk about some of the films your dad was in. The list is incredible. And you're probably going to think, Rudy Acosta, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the nature of a character actor.
If people are a fan of the High Chaparral show, which was, TV show, which was filmed over here in Old Tucson, so only about 4 hours away, he spent the better part of my early childhood, over there for 6 months of the year, playing Vaquero. I joke and say he was the Mexican Hop Sing, Nanza's Hop Sing. And, he had some real interesting scenes, but actual episodes that kind of centered around his character, doing some translations with the Native Americans and those kinds of things. And then also he had some very famous fight scenes. One with Elvis Presley in Flaming Star.
Wow.
A Chief Buffalo Horn. And also he had a big fight scene with John Wayne, kind of playing the protagonist in Hondo with John Wayne. Great movie if you haven't seen it, folks. But yes, his screen credits are very, very extensive, and I encourage people, if they're interested in that and seeing what El Pasoan has done on the silver screen, and both on the large and small screen, they can take a look at some of his stuff on IMDb and look him up.
That is wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and it's a pleasure to speak with you. And I know that you guys at the Small Business Administration are providing a real lifeline. This is, small business and medium-sized businesses are kind of what makes the American business scene. I mean, people talk about the Googles and the too big to fails and so forth. Most of the United States is small business. When you come to commerce, that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is, and I really encourage people today. I know it's a little bit challenging and whatnot, but if you have the ability, continue to support your local small business owners, whether it's a restaurant or something else. Maybe go on their website. I know the impulse sometimes can be, let's do it easy and go to one of the big national retailers that has a great presence online. See if you can call your local small business. They need your business. They want your business, and they're the ones that are going to be here tomorrow to support our community on a grassroots level. So I know me and my family are doing as much of that as possible and trying a new restaurant every day. They're all trying to roll out curbside pickup, etc. So yeah. I really encourage people to continue to support their small business.
Once again, Dante Acosta, the District Director for the El Paso District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and go to sba.gov or sba.gov/coronavirus to find out more about how the Small Business Administration and the United States government are helping people right here in El Paso in a very direct way. Mr. Acosta, we appreciate you and your time today. Thank you very much for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Duke. Appreciate it.
Our thanks again to Marybeth Stevens, the president of Better Business Bureau Paso del Norte, and to Dante Acosta, the district director of the Small Business Administration. And our thanks to you for listening in today. We hope that over the next few weeks, if not months, that this can provide a real resource for folks to kind of find out what's going on in their community in relation to COVID-19. And if you've got a tip or a story idea, send it to me, duke.keith@townsquaremedia.com. And I look forward to speaking to you next week. Until then, so long, everybody. Stay well.